Okay, we're going to start now. We're in the middle of the midah of Nikias. Nikias is after a person, we said, becomes proficient in Zehirus. He has his business plan, and he's staying away from all the Averas, and he also is running to do mitzvahs. He's a Zorez, he's doing mitzvahs. Then he gets into Nikias. Zehirus and Zrizas is a person who should not rob a bank. A person who should not light fires on Shabbos. That's Zehirus. Zrizas is I run to light my Hanukkah candles, and Yom Yom coming up soon. And I run to get to shul on time. That's Zrizas. Nikias is the more subtle parts of a mitzvah. As we were Ma'arich last week, in the Mesillas Yesharim does this as well, in the 11th parak, when it comes to the Isser of Gzela, of stealing, of theft. So no one here views themselves as being a ganav, as being a thief. But the question is, when we take our breaks at work, is it a few minutes longer than it should be? And if it is, so then that's a bechina of Gzela on some level. And the Mesillas Yesharim continues with the Isser of Oino, which is, he calls it monetary matter fraud or monetary abuse, where a person, let's say he's a salesman, he's selling a product, and he tries to make his product look better than it is. So he says, he quotes like this, Yiddishkeit is very difficult because things aren't black and white, as we saw yesterday in our Lashon Hara Shiur, things are not black and white, they're often very gray. When it comes to being a good businessman, right? The Gemara in Pesachim says, Yesh Zorez v'nisker, which means a vigorous person is going to profit. So the Gemara is endorsing being a good businessman, making money, that if a person's successful in business, that's considered to be a positive thing. Another pasuk in Mishnah, V'yad charutzim ta'ashir, and the hand of the diligent prospers. So one who's successful, that's a good midah. On the other hand, a person goes too far. He can violate the issur of monetary fraud. Like for example, a person has a used car, and he tries to make it look new. He has damaged produce, and he tries to make it look. He's mafarchis in esakelim. He makes his merchandise look better than it actually is. That is oinos mammon. That's monetary fraud. A person has to be very careful to present things the way they are. So the Mesillas Yesharim lays out what is the appropriate approach to being a good businessman. I'm allowed to show all the positives of my product. I have a product I'm trying to sell you. I sell glasses. I can tell you this, I think, looks good on you, and it's very durable, and it's a nice style. What I can't do is hide the blemishes. If I know that these glasses often break, if someone hits the person in the face, and he has little kids who often do that by accident, obviously. So then I should tell him, you should know. But I know you have little kids, and these glasses, while they look very good, they're a bit flimsy, and they can get damaged easily. So one has to be, you're allowed to point out all the positives of the merchandise. One is not allowed to make it to hide the blemishes. I always wondered, I know it's mutter, but how come when you sell something that's worth $10, you sell it for $9.99? Just sell it for $10. But every place sells it for $9.99. So why is that?
Seems like that.
It seems like Walmart does $10.
No, $9.97. They do $9.97, so it's harder to add the two up when you're shopping.
Well, because why?
It's harder to add.
That's the svara.
Yes.
Interesting.
$9.99 is cheaper than $10 in your month.
So that everyone does $9.99 or $9.97. Why do they do that? We all know that it costs $10. But the Mesillas is, the reality is, when your eye sees $999, it's not $1,000. $1,000 in our minds is a different league. So is that oinos mammon? You're selling something for $1,000, right? And we're trying to trick people into thinking that it's less. We know how a person's mind works. You think you're not tricked? If you wouldn't be tricked, they wouldn't do that. How much money do they lose by selling everything for $9.99? They can lose a substantial amount of money.
There's no technical deception, meaning that's the price and that's what you're paying.
Yes. So that's why it's mutter, I think. But it's a shiloh, meaning I'm manipulating a person into thinking it's cheaper than it is. I'm telling you, we all know that's the case, but they still do it, so it must still work. I was once in the mikveh in Adas, in Melbourne, Australia, and that's where you hear all the good, all the good news. And one businessman was bragging about the following. He was saying, and he has Jewish clients, and he says that he has a way of getting them to pay more than they should be. He throws something in for free. That's his technique. You throw something in for free, and then you can charge more for the product. Meaning, if I'm selling you a shirt for $50, you're not going to pay for it. But if I throw in a free something, a free tie, that's worth, I don't know, nothing. The shirt's worth $30. Throw a free tie. I'll charge you $50. You'll come and buy the shirt because it's a free tie.
Right.
Is that oinas mammon? Is that, he knows, he's seen. When he doesn't do this, they will not pay $50 for the shirt. It wasn't a shirt, I'm just making that up. They will not pay the money for the shirt. When he throws in this $2 tie, they'll pay a much higher amount for the shirt. Now, is that just good business acumen? That's just, I'm not deceiving you, but it's a form of manipulation. Is that mutter or asur? It's most likely mutter, but these are shalos we have to have. Meaning, when it comes to the big averas and the big mitzvahs, we all do them. Like, no one here now eats pork. If I would offer you a pork sandwich, you're not going to eat it. If I would give you milk 5 hours and 58 minutes after you had fleishik, for those who wait 6 hours, would you have it? You wouldn't have it, right? Those are the obvious averas, but then there's the smaller averas. There's the more subtle averas like this that we don't even realize we have. And says the Mesillas Yesharim, the bigger the Yetzer Hara is for the thing, then the bigger chance we'll have to violate these subtle parts of the Avera. So Chemdas Mammon, money is one of the main titles we have. We have to be very careful. We have to realize, if we don't think that we have daily shilas in Gzela and daily shilas in monetary fraud, then we are missing the boat to an extent. We have to realize that our days are full of, there are many of these shilas that come up. And that's Nikias. Nikias is being clean even from these subtle forms of the Avera. The Mesillas Yesharim continues. He quotes the Gemara Baba Basra that everyone is nichshol, everyone transgresses on some level geneva, u'miutim ba'arayis, and some people with illicit relations. So besides the act itself, he is ma'arif. There are many, many other layers of, there's thinking about things, there's speech, there's talking, there's how a person just talks to someone else's wife. There's certain gedarim, certain boundaries one has to have to make sure that things don't go too far. The third taiva, the third Yetzer Hara that Mesillas Yesharim discusses here in Perek Yud Aleph is that of Madrega Shlishis is Isser Mahama Achalos, is forbidden food, right? That a person has to be careful, a person has to realize that the fuel for Yiras Shamayim, for fear of heaven, is what he eats. A car needs gasoline, so the food we eat is what gives us the Yiras Shamayim. One has to be very careful to make sure that he eats from the proper hashgachas. The kosher Miami is definitely recommended, and ORB as well. Is the local hashgachas here. So that one has to be careful to make sure that one's out on a vacation, and gone are the days where you can read the ingredient panel and see there's nothing in there, so it's fine, because you don't have to list on the ingredient panel release agents. What's a release agent? If the product is going to stick to the equipment, we'll spray it with, it could be an animal-based spray product to make sure it doesn't stick to the equipment. You don't have to list on the ingredient panel which release agent was used. So all the ingredients can be fine. I mean, the truth is, half the time you don't recognize all the different enzymes and colors and whatever it might be. But let's say it's an organic product from Whole Foods that has nothing in it. But still, you don't know the release agents that were used. You don't know the equipment. The previous run could have been lard. Canned fruit in Australia, they'll manufacture animal products in the same plant. They'll have spaghetti and meatballs, and in certain parts of the world they say tinned fruit, canned fruit. You don't need to have any hashgacha on them because there's nothing except just pure fruit on it. It's all dedicated facilities. We found in Australia that they will produce spaghetti and meatballs and other animal products in the same equipment as the canned fruit. But it just says on it, there are apricots and peaches, there's nothing else in there. But the kalim, if it was used with certain temperatures, that can contaminate the kalim, and then the kosher product is run on the same equipment, and that contaminates the food. So one has to be very careful when it comes to kashrus, realizing that's the fuel of Yiras Shamayim. Then the Mesillas Yesharim goes on to averas that happen with the chevra. He calls them the chatoim hamidinim hanodim michevras me'adam v'kibutzah. So from a social milieu where people meet together and congregate, and there's a whole slew of averas that can come about in a social context. So he starts off with oinos dvarim, which is verbal abuse, which the famous example in the Gemara is a person is a Baal Tshuva and a person reminds him of his past. Now, that can happen in a much more subtle manner. You're hanging out with a bunch of guys and you're schmoozing and you make a joke at someone else's expense. And you're a good buddy with the guy. You're not really concerned that he's going to feel slighted. But Lamaisa, you never know. You make a joke at someone's expense and that person can feel bad. If his face turns red, it's akin to murder. Or if his face turns white. So one has to be very careful. Again, it's a subtle thing. You call him by a nickname, or you say something pejorative about him in front of him. You're kibitzing, you're joking around. That could actually hurt the person. That could affect him. One has to be careful when it comes to that. As the Mesillas points out, that even when one is giving teichach, when one is giving rebuke to someone, he has to be careful not to embarrass the person. So that's something you have to be very careful about as well. Giving advice is another thing. Someone will come to you for advice in business, and you know what? I don't necessarily want to see this guy matzliach. I don't want to see him being successful, or maybe it's a competition to me somehow, and I might not give him the best advice. A person has an obligation, if someone comes to one for advice, to give him the best advice possible. And I'll tell you a story that illustrates this point. There was a shochet in Brisk that was getting older, and his hands started to shake a bit, and they were the tzibur, they were nervous that maybe he's beyond his prime. He was still a kosher shochet. They wanted to bring someone younger who's a bit more, be a higher level. So they went to, I think it was the Brisk, I'm not sure if it was the Brisk Rav or Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. Let's say the Brisk Rav. They went to the Brisk Rav and they told him, we have this, the shochet, and we want to offer him a position in a little shtetl, a little distance away, a smaller kehillah where they don't have a shochet. He's better than nothing, and we'll get our shochet. So we're going to tell him that it's a better position. Getting on in years, and Brisk is a big town, and there's a lot of it's very hard to be a shochet in Brisk. A lot of demands. Go to the small little shtetl, and they're going to pay you a better wage actually. And these balabatim are going to pay this little shtetl to pay him, right, to get him out of the way. And it's better for you, and you should do it. So they went to the Brisk Rav. They said, "What do you think about this idea?" "I think it's a great idea." Brisk Rav said, "You want to raise the level of shchita. You don't want to chas v'shalom hurt the parnasa of the shochet who is still a good shochet. You want to have a higher level of shchita, and you're willing to pay that shtetl to pay him. It's a wonderful mitzvah. It's a chesed. You should go and do it. For sure, you should do it." Fine. They're very happy. They go to the shochet. They tell him the whole idea, and he's like, "Okay, it sounds good. Let me go ask the Rav. I'm going to ask the Rav what he thinks." And the Baal Batim are very happy because they just spoke to the Brisk Rav and he said that it's a great idea. You're holding the knife like a shchita knife. You're making me nervous.
Anybody know who this guy is?
You can, you don't know him. Okay, we're in trouble.
I've never seen it before.
So this sheikh now goes to the Brisk Rav and he tells him what the Baal Batim are offering him. And the Brisk Rav says, "You shouldn't go there. It's better for you to stay in Brisk. For you, it's better in Brisk." So he goes back to the Baal Batim and he says that the Rav said I should stay here. And they didn't know what was flying this Baal Batim. What's going on? Is the Rav becoming schizophrenic? Is the Rav crazy? Some people think that sometimes. The rabbi is crazy. I don't know why. But is the Rav crazy? So they went back to the Brisk Rav. They said, what's going on? He said, when you came to me to ask me an eitzah, so I gave an eitzah hu genas loy. That's the same Brisk. An eitzah hu genas loy. I gave an eitzah that's fit for you. You were asking me. I told you, yeah, it's a great idea to have the shochet move to a different town. When he came to me, I gave him an eitzah hu genas loy. For him personally, I think he should stay here. This is the place he's familiar with. In Shechita, it could be very political, a lot of difficult personalities. He's used to the oilam here. For him, it's for sure better to start at this age in a new place. It's not a good idea for him. I gave him the eitzah hu genas loy. So when a person is someone comes to him for advice, and he has the benefit of the greater tzibur in mind, that's wrong. When the individual comes for an advice, you must give an eitzah hu genas loy. So a person thinks he's doing a mitzvah. I'm saving the town. I'm increasing the level of shechita. The Brisk Rav realized there's an individual coming in front of me. I must give him the eitzah hu genas loy. Shall be zoichet to see these subtle types of challenges in our life. And this week the project will be to try to find in oinos dvar, in verbal abuse, try to catch ourselves if we ever see that we're with the chevra, with our buddies, and we're saying something that might be negative and might offend someone else, to hold ourselves back. That'll be the project for this week.